Good evening. Welcome to Tuesdays at 8. This actually is our last Tuesday of 2020. We have produced 16 episodes of Tuesdays at 8. We've been so blessed with all of the wonderful guests that we've had on the episodes that talk about the practices of visual faith. And tonight you're in for a wonderful treat because I've got three people in the studio with me tonight. Bev, and Jamie and Connie. And we're going to be talking about the gifts of joy and the reminder to always be ready to pray and give thanks. So here are my guests, Connie Denninger, Bev Wicher, and Jamie I'm sorry, I want to say your name.
Thieme.
Thank you. One of those things happening tonight. Well, let's start off by beginning in prayer. And Bev has been so kind to say that she would say a prayer for us. So if you all bow, we will go into a prayerful state.
Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together tonight, for letting us share some of these practices that you have led us to and that have strengthened our relationship with you and our relationship with each other. Help be with us in our conversation tonight and just let us inspire people into different ways that they might want to connect with your word and become closer with you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much. Well, let me introduce who's with me tonight. So we have Bev, and she's become a frequent guest, although she's going to crack up because she doesn't want to be a frequent guest. She's one of my frequent guests on Tuesdays at 8. She is a visual faith coach. She lives in Buffalo, New York. She's been married for 42 years. 42. I wrote it wrong. 42 years. Isn't that wonderful? She has 3 grown sons and 2 grandsons. And currently during COVID, Bev has been taking care of her grandsons 3 days a week and helping with homeschooling. Welcome, Bev.
Thank you.
And then we have Jamie Thieme, who's from Cary, North Carolina, and she is a first-time guest. Jamie is a retired elementary school teacher. She specializes in special education and reading intervention. She is delighted in bringing visual faith tools and resources to her school, church, and community as she tells the story of her enriched devotional life. Most recently, she's been leading a caring card ministry through her church, utilizing many resources that we have at Visual Faith Ministry. And then if you've been watching Tuesdays at 8 at all, you know who Connie is. Connie Denninger is the co-founder of Visual Faith Ministry. She lives in Northern Virginia. She has 3 married daughters, and she has been blessed with 9 grandchildren, of which 8 are boys and 1 granddaughter. She's so outnumbered. Welcome, everyone. And I'm going to start off with... hold on one second. I've got a slide and I'm going to give it over to you, Bev, to kind of talk a little bit about this project. And I think this will help everybody understand. As I mentioned, we're talking about gifts of joy, and that's a new resource that Bev has created for Visual Faith Ministry, and it's putting together some practices. So tell us a little bit about what is in this resource and your thoughts behind it a little bit, Bev, please.
Yes. Last year we have so many resources on our resource page, and sometimes it's hard to find them because there are a lot now. I think maybe over 1,000. I might be wrong about that. Yeah. Anyway, we have a few calendar pages and a few prayer pages, but we thought maybe it would be best. Last year, Connie and I and Pat talked and thought it would be good to bring them together into one document so people didn't have to search so much to find them. So I said, I can do that. That'll be fun. So we created this packet of a full year of 12 calendar pages for gratitudes, 1 gratitude a day, and some prayer spaces where you can write names of people you want to pray for or situations you want to pray for. And we do the coloring piece, which focuses us as we pray. So it's basically every day, although you don't have to do it every day. Sometimes you get busy. So maybe you'll get behind a day or two, and that's okay. And when you get to it, you a lot of times I'll put my prayer names in, and when I really have time to really focus on prayer, then I just sit down with my journal, and it creates a wonderful memory and just a great process to, as I said in my other, just being purposeful about our prayer time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for explaining that. And I think hopefully somebody's in here, and one of our fellow watchers has put the link in for that. If not, we'll make sure that you get the link. What I wanted to make sure everybody understood was this is Christmas is how many days away? What, 12 days?
10 exactly.
10 days. We have been so blessed with creativity and people creating wonderful things for Visual Faith. So we gave you the Thanksgiving scripture journal project, and then we came out with the Advent project, and there's a new one coming out that you don't even know about unless you got your newsletter today, for the 12 days of Christmas. And most importantly, what we want to make sure everybody understands is this gifts of joy is not something you're going to be doing right now. This is planning for 2021. So what we're going to be talking about, not necessarily just the technique of putting the journal together, and we will touch on that, but more importantly, this is a practice. And it's something that means you make a decision, you do some preparation, and then you actually implement that. So what we're going to have Bev and Jamie and Connie share, because they've been doing this project for a very long time. So I would like for them to share with you, how did they actually do it? So Jamie, can you start a little bit, and I can put your pictures up whenever you tell me you want them to be up. So
right.
Tell us when you started, number one,
okay,
how it fits into your life, where you keep this or where you do it. I think everybody would really love to hear that.
You can show slide number 7.
Thank you.
I started this practice thanks to Connie, because in 2016, Connie came to Charlotte, North Carolina, and led a women's retreat and presented Ann Voskamp's 1,000 Gifts of Counting Gratitude. And I started there. And I filled those pages up and I kept going. I didn't have any special format. I just kept writing gifts that I was counting, on the blank pages in my journal. And then in the fall of 2018, Connie was invited to my congregation in Cary to present a Visual Faith 101 workshop. And she got us all revved up. And so following that, I put together a small group of interested women who wanted to set up their journals. So we set those up, like you mentioned, in preparation for the following year. So we did it late in the fall. And so they were ready to go starting, in January. And it's just continued from there. In fact, just recently I had two of the women who had done that initial group of setting up the journals contacting me saying, "Can you send me more forms?" So it's being continued. And I do it daily as part of my personal devotional time. I have my journal right by my chair where I do my quiet time. And after I finish my devotions, I go right to my journal and I write down usually just about one gift a day. But like Bev mentioned, if for some reason I miss a day, then, it's easy to catch up. And then from that, I go into the prayer page. And thank you, Diane.
Yeah.
What I do, I will write down names, and I don't always immediately color in the space. Sometimes I will put names or collect names and put them into the graphic. And then over the next few days or weeks, then as I'm praying for those people, I will color. But I think another important way that this can be done, you don't have to color. It can be done in black and white. But if you just take your finger and maybe trace over that section with the person's name or the prayer that you are focusing on, that whole sense of touching while you're praying, I think that's another good technique that you can use.
Oh, that's wonderful. I really like that idea. That's a great idea. Well, for those people who haven't ever done this, how hard was it to start this? did you falter? Like, were you good for a week or two and then you kind of forgot about it? Or share a little bit about your experience with that.
For me, it was not hard. Connie has that phrase about sustainable, was it? Maybe you can help me out here. Practices that we sustain and we keep going. For me, it's been a really important thing and very easy for me to sustain it.
That's wonderful. How about you, Bev? Oh, go ahead, Connie. Were you going to say something?
Practical and doable.
There you go. Thank you.
There's our words right there. Thank you. How about you, Bev? Was it easy for you to start? And when did you start?
Well, it was in 2016, so it was the same year. So Connie that was her thing that year, maybe. And our husbands work together in different sections of the country, and we get together occasionally. And she would just gather us, and some of the other, like the Bible journaling, seemed a little much. But when she showed me this calendar journal, I was like, I think I can do that. I was pretty excited about it, and so I did not find it hard once I got started. And I'll tell you where it went for me, because here's what your blank page, either one. So my heart story is that I knew this would be a practice that would help me. I needed help to focus more on prayer and to make that more everyday thing in my life, that it was always there, but it creates just a great way to pray, and it's in front of you. I think that's it, that the names were in your head before, but now they're like on the paper in front of you, and you can really think about what you want to pray for and how you want to pray for. And then the coloring, of course, quiets us and takes all those distractions away. But the story that I never knew I knew this would be a good practice for me. I knew I needed to do this. But what I didn't know is how it would bless me down the road. And that's my story here, is that the year we started this, and it just happened to be, that was the year my sister had cancer and she was dying at the time. And I had just started this in January. She died early in February. And so I was with her for about 2 weeks by myself. My family had to be here. My husband had, church things, and my kids were working. So it was me and my journal. And what a blessing that was at that time, because unlike Jamie, I tend to do mine at night. So like I reflect on at the end of my day, and try to do that prayer time and really reflect on the gratitude. So it was such a meaningful time for me to be able to, pray and think about the gratitudes, because it's a hard time and you're looking for your gratitudes. But now, as I look back 4 years now later, the blessing it's become, and that's where this gift of joy is. I have a written memory of that time, of the prayers that we said, of the blessings that were there, people that were in my life that I didn't even know, hospice nurses, and just, neighbors and friends of my sisters and friends of myself. And that's all recorded now forever. And so it's just a beautiful memory for me. And, I hope some days my family will pick that up, my grandchildren, and say, wow. And so I did really good for 2 solid years. And I'm going to be honest, I slid a little, but now looking back at this, now that we created this resource, and I'm looking back in my old books, I'm like, I'm really excited to start again and really dive into it again.
Well, I love your story. Thank you for being so transparent and honest and sharing it, Bev. I think I want to make sure everybody understands that we are living in these COVID times. Everybody is stressed. Everybody is grieving over losses of so many different things, whether it's people or our time or just being with your friends. And so what I hear in your story is, during that time of grieving, it's so hard to process that grief. And this was a way for you to actually process it in a very healthy way. And obviously, you might have gone deeper in processing your grief because you were writing. And when we're told to count it all joy, no matter what's happening, sounds like great words, but can be very difficult to do. But you're showing us that if you will try this and do this, even during that kind of a time period in your life, it can really, sounds like, soothe your soul during that time. And then the legacy that you created, that you have, as you said. So it's a good memory to remember that time frame. Yes, it's sad your sister died, but look at where you were at and how God drew you so close together.
And just the people who, I mean, the gratitude part is like, it can be a person, it could be a phone call, it can be, it doesn't have to be huge. You're in maybe a sad situation or trying, you're talking about COVID here, but there's always something in every day that, and I've said to people, sometimes it's just the fact that you've gotten up on a day, if it's a really bad day, but there's always something. And this process is really, I can't even tell you what it does for you. And yeah, and the memory piece is just huge. I mean, even beyond this big of a thing, there's little things, things we've experienced with our grandkids. You can go back and see those little triumphs, and vacations, everything. It's all right there on paper. And there's a paper journal, and people have been journaling for years, but you would have to read through everything. The thing about this is it's short and it's sweet, and you can just look back really quickly and say, oh, I remember when I did that, and that was a great time, and that was a hard time. And you looked at prayers that some were answered the way you hoped, some weren't, but it's just very powerful. It's really very powerful.
It is. So tell us a little bit about this page. I think when I say tell us about your page, I know people can look at it. But so I see you've got some Bible verses on there. Tell us about
yes, I do. So I like to so the calendar side is the gratitude side, and the graphic side is the prayer side. So I like to find a gratitude Bible verse and a prayer Bible verse to go with each one, just to remind you of the focus, that Jesus is your focus. And, this isn't just about making things pretty. It's really about connecting with God. And if you want, can you go back to the blank one? Yeah. So if you'll notice, I have printed graphics there. Those, Diane has graciously made those for us. The gratitude ones came out of the Thanksgiving garland packet that was available for purchase, and she also has made some prayer ones for us as well that are also available. So, not all of us are great at calligraphy or writing, so it's a great way to just add those verses without having to just write them, but writing them's fine too. So whichever way you want to do it, but those are available on the resource page as well.
Well, thank you. So I want everybody to see that Bev actually created that. How did you create that design? Is that on a computer? How did you?
Yeah, I just did like shapes, I have a publisher program, and I just sort of grabbed shapes and connected them and drew some lines. So that's not freehand, though. That's definitely computer generated. But
awesome. Well, I'm going to bring Connie in now because there's something I want to transition to. So this package that you can download for free has all of those wonderful graphics that are done, and you can just sit and color it. But back in the old days, Connie, her page to the left, can you tell us a little bit about how you got that beautiful design on that page?
Well, when we started doing this, and this is back to my IEP that Connie could not keep up with any prayer practice for more than a week. And I was pretty much figuring out for myself that I had to be prepared and plan ahead for prayer time, and that I wasn't a journal person. I needed to have a way So this began and initially was called Prayers by the Month because it's not dated in the month. So if I sat down 7 or 8 times for prayer time for Prayers by the Month, this page captured it. And this was a stencil when we were doing scrapbooking. We had all of these stencils. You might know those little tiny
Yes.
ones on the right. Those were ones we had in the early years for coaches and retreats and events. So it was simply about putting a design on a blank sheet of paper. And this was a very big, when I first started this, I happened to have 11 by 14 album on hand, blank paper. And so I just used what I had. That I used that till that journal was full, but it was a little unwieldy to, cart around when you start traveling. It doesn't go on airplanes very well. So, but that at that time I was just doing Prayers by the Month in one journal. And then I had started the Ann Voss Camp Counting Gifts in another journal. So, we were trying to figure out the practices that went with the gratitude things that Ann Voss Camp was really talking about. And I think when we started it, I believe that we probably thought this was sort of a practice you do for a year, garner the benefits, and then you move on to the next thing. I think what really surprised the people in the early communities when we started doing this was we saw so much transformation in our heart of gratitude that we just saw so much more area that God needed to do work. And we said, well, that was really good for a year, but I think I need another year's worth of work. So I think you could see, I think I started that in February 2010.
Or 11, looks like well, maybe it is. I can't see.
The beginning of the book, I didn't send the first one to you, is February 2010. So in February, this will be 11 years of doing the Counting Gifts project. And the Prayers by the Month happened pretty much right at the same time.
Okay.
So
that's the beauty of what Bev has put together for us is, as Connie always talks about, the early years makes us sound old, but when we first started, there was, let's do this, and then let's do this, and let's do this. And I think where we've evolved to, and for those of you who are brand new to this, will love that this resource combines 2 phenomenal practices in one book. Number 1, it's easy. Number 2, I think it takes maybe an hour. It doesn't really take that much longer, does it, to do a whole 12 months, ladies? I'm to actually glue the things in and get it ready, right?
It depends how fancy you want to make it, but
Right.
you can sit down in one sitting in a couple hours and have your prayer pages ready for the whole year. And, it's going back to the 2 retreats Jamie was talking about. It was out of that collaborative working with those 2 retreats that, people said, I'm not lugging 2 books around, like you do. I'm putting it in one book. So it's really evolved, I think, into a much more practical way to have the practices put together, like Bev has put it together. And it's, the learning along the way of how do you take something that was good here and good there and make it even better. And I think that's what's happened with, learning in community is wonderful because we take, the insight from a whole group of people and continue to make better products. And what Bev has done right now is made it very simple to find the project and be intentional in planning to pray and give thanks in 2021. And there's a simple resource to help you do that.
And it will solve the spiritual amnesia problem that Connie always talks about, that if we're all honest, we all have. And I love Bev's honesty and Connie's honesty, because when I first met Connie, she was on a pedestal for me. She was a pastor's wife. And so to me, she was perfect. She knew how to do that. So one day when she said, well, I say I'm going to pray for people. And then I realized, and Bev has said the same thing. Then I realized 3 days later, I forgot to do that. So whether you're a pastor's wife, whoever you are, because I even do that now when I'm talking to people. Oh, I'll pray for you. And then I forget. But when I have the book, it's like, quick, write their name down. That's where I asked where you keep your books, because I've also heard some other women who do this say they have a big kitchen counter, and so it's not in the way. And they keep it right on the kitchen counter. And then what a great visual that is if you have family members around. They're like, what are you writing in? So they get to look and see, what are you counting for? So you're kind of demonstrating a heart of gratitude and who you pray for. So it's it's just such a wonderful tool and great practice to do. We've got so many good comments. So I'm going to put some comments up for everybody at this point. Okay. Hold on. There will be a Zoom event on December 29th. So that's 2 weeks from tonight that Bev will be hosting that will help you get this project going. And Bev, can you share a little about what your plan is for the Zoom event? Is this one we're just going to be talking, or are you actually going to be doing?
We're going to be doing it. Those of you that attended Eden Keefe when she created the Thanksgiving booklets, and that was just a really fun time to be together, and we, most of us probably didn't finish the book that night, but we worked on it and we talked a little bit about the process, which we can do at that time as well. But it was just good to be together, even though we weren't in a room together, and it felt like community. And so it's just a way to get people started, and the resource has all the supplies you need. So if you look that over ahead of time, and yes, we're going to make them. We probably won't finish them in that time, but it'll be a good start. And I have found it's good to finish the whole year if you can, because you get behind and then you have to make a page, and it doesn't have to be pretty. I mean, I use the scrapbook paper behind my graphics, and just slap that on, but it doesn't have to be. It can just be a plain page. It doesn't, and those of you that are artistic can do all the drawing you want, and you don't have to use the graphics. You can pick the graphics you like and make more than one copy of those, any way it works for you. But
washi tape, don't forget washi tape.
Washi tape too. But I just thought it would be fun to gather together, because we really did enjoy gathering to make those booklets. So it's just sort of a fun time to do a craft together. And I'm hoping people who have done it before might share a little bit about their process and how they do it and how it speaks to their heart. So.
And the other fun part for those of you who weren't on that Zoom call, I had so much fun because there was a lot of people that were new, and they were like, I'm going to add this and that. And then it sparked, oh, you could add that. And then, so it was really, really fun. People got even more excited about making it and then seeing how other people do it. So if you say, well, I don't know how to do all this, and I'm not that creative, this will be a great chance for you to jump in on that. And then let's see, Eden said, Jamie, it's a blessing to see how you use these resources. So that was really good.
My friend Eden.
Yes.
Eden.
And she said, I like the addition of tracing your finger over the names, which is such a great way to pray. Boy, Eden, you just gave us a lot of comments in a row. I love that prayer can be spontaneous, but also that we can plan to spend time in prayer. Thank you. That's perfect. That's a great quote. Prayer can be spontaneous, but you can also plan to spend that more time actually doing it. Okay, so I don't know who Facebook user is. That's okay. This journal is a wonderful framework for consistent daily prayer and gratitude. Provides a history of God's faithful response to prayer, and it sets us up to walk through the day. Who wrote this? We love you. With eyes wide open, looking for and expecting gifts for which to give thanks. Perfect. I need to make sure I write that down.
Any of us could have said it any better.
It's a great description. I just need to write that one down. Okay. Donna, what a great healing aid, Bev Wicher. I had not even considered that. See?
Thanks.
Exactly. We didn't even know that was going to happen. Praying with expectation is a blessing. Absolutely. Okay, Donna says, Connie, you gifted me some templates that started me off. You were so gracious and inspiring. I am a slow mover, but he is moving me, and I use these still. never know what you're going to give to somebody, how it's going to change their life. Eden, you're just talking away to us tonight. I also like how people have adapted it to different sizes and formats so they can use these resources. And that's really key because, as Connie said, what was your first size? 11 by 14?
Yeah.
Yeah, which looked really nice because I made my first one that big too. Same thing. I was like, this is never leaving this spot. Way too big. So now the book you're referring us to put it in, Bev, is a 9 by 12, right? Just a regular.
Yeah, or even 8.5 by 11. I like a soft cover just because we travel. Well, we used to travel anyway.
Yeah,
And, it's just a little easier than the hardcover book, but you do want it to be spiral bound so it can lay flat.
With the pages, yes.
And you can even just bind your own, just get cardstock and bind that together. It doesn't have to be a book.
Absolutely. So our Facebook user says these journals can easily become commonplace books by leaving blank pages between months. Oh, good idea. Pages to adhere, articles, quotes, church bulletins, kids concert programs, whatever has brought you joy to your life. So you're right. So you could plan this whole book like you all have talked about what the resource says. This person's adding, here we go, Connie, somebody's adding one more thing, one project is you can actually put more things in it. So you don't have to go, oh, and now I need another book for that. And I need a book for this. So thank you.
Like a smash or a chunk journal.
Yeah.
Add in daily life as you go along, right? In the months that you're living them. So that's also a very easy way to track, what's happening in one document.
Mm-hmm.
You could even set it up in a 3-ring notebook, just
sure.
plain paper or cardstock in a notebook. And then that way you could, you can move things around, add things in, take things out, whatever.
I would totally agree with you. Does anybody know those happy journals, happy planners that are those little disc bound things?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Oh, wait, I do have one here. Okay. I love that instead of a 3-ring binder. So if you can kind of see the CDs.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So if you go to Staples, they sell these rings, and this is for only like 100 pages. And they can have other pages. But the beauty is you put the page in and see it folds flat.
Yeah.
And you can, if you buy the punch, now I just looked at it today and it's $59, but I bought it for $40. So I've had it for forever. But you can punch pages like somebody just said and insert more things. Mm-hmm. So you can make it and keep adding to it also.
There's never any rules. You make it what works for you is what you have to do. We give you a basis to start with, but then make it your own.
And I think too, the time and space and where you are in life, we help a lot of MOPS groups make these journals, young moms with young children, and they're happy to have a journal where they get anything down, counting gifts or their prayer pages. So, and what they talk about is even if they get behind, and I said, even if you get to a month where you have half of it empty, but you have half of it full, that's half full, people, and you wouldn't have that if you didn't have a place and a plan to capture half of it. So I tell you, moms, if you're capturing a third of your life somewhere in a notebook, that's wonderful and amazing. That will bless you. I wish I had that from when I was a young mom.
I do too. I still wish I had that.
So I tell them anything you get down is going to be wonderful.
Oh, now here's our newest person, Tracy. I was thinking if it was a traveler's notebook size, it would fit in my bag for on the go. Thanks for all the wonderful tools. Thanks, Tracy. That's a good idea too. So everybody's giving us great comments, and please hear us. This is not you have to do it this way. Everything's about making it fit into your life. So Facebook user, I met Connie at Tending the Flame in 2015. And this year is the first that I am incorporating the daily gratitude tool. So see, 5 years later, she's ready to do it. I love to look back to see what God has done in my life over the last half decade. That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see. I tip in my Lent and Advent journal sheets too. Oh, okay. See, incorporating resources. That's another really, that's another really good idea. So we're approaching our time to somewhat draw to a close. So I'm going to say, if you have any questions, we love your comments. Thank you. You're very encouraging to us as speakers. if you have any questions, if anybody has them, now's the time to ask them, or ask a person a specific question that you have. And my guess, if you will be thinking when I say we're really done, maybe one thing you could share as an encouragement for people thinking about doing this, or for the people that have been doing it and maybe say, yeah, I'm kind of tired of doing that. Maybe I don't want to do it. So I don't see any other comments right now. So Jamie, I'm going to call on you first.
Oh, goody.
What kind of encouragement would you like to leave us with from your perspective for this process?
I think it's something we say about a lot of the practices we use in visual faith, but it's the process, not the product. So don't focus on making, thinking about making a product. It's what you're doing as you are, using that product.
Thank you. Words of wisdom. Yes. Okay, Bev, it's your turn.
Keep it simple. So it's doable. When I first started, I was all about color. It had to be, did this color go with this color? Did this color? And make it simple. Connie has always said 3 or 4 colors. That's a great suggestion. And don't fret if you fall behind. It's okay. And when the time is right, you'll pick it up again. And God welcomes us back, as I've said before. And it's okay. It's just okay. Just make it work for you, and you'll know when it's right. And if it's not, then you find something else. That's why we make all these different things available, so that you find what's right for you.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I want to share is, I love what you just said, Bev, about it has to be matching colors, and I have to do all those things. I approached everything that I've learned at Visual Faith from this art perspective. So I was coming from there and from scrapbooking. So you had to have the right ephemera, and you had to have the perfect paper, and you had to have all those perfect things. And everything we do at Visual Faith is not about that. It is about changing your heart and your daily practices that become new habits. And and as Bev and everybody has just said, you so happen to end up with this book. It's not about the beautiful, perfect book, as a lot of scrapbooking is about, or even in Bible journaling. It's about the time that you're spending with God in prayer and in giving thanks. So that's my little tip. And Connie, what's your tip or advice?
I just tell people to remember this is a grace-filled practice. Mm-hmm. And I talked to a lot of young moms, and I said, you get a half a year behind, write in great big letters, grace, over your blank page, and move on, and pick it up and keep going, because we always want to remember these are practices that when you sit down, you're hearing God say to you, I'm so glad you're here. I'm happy for this time with you. And he is not saying to you, where have you been? It's always about, I'm so glad you're here. So anything you get down is a wonderful gift. And just remember that all of these practices are just covered in grace.
Thank you. We did end up with a few more questions, so I'm going to post those now. Will the special Zoom events be posted in the events page or just along the feed? I think we decided to make it an event, right?
Yeah, I put it up in the events page, and that's where I will put the Zoom link when we have it. I think that's the best place for it to go, so it won't get lost. And I'll make a post somewhere else to say the link is in the event. I think that's a little better to connect, and you can always just message me and I can get it to you if you can't find it. So
thanks. The priorities, put the main pages in first and decorate later. Yes, Eden, that's perfect. And that's what the time on the 29th can be about, is, just listening and talking to people also. And let's see, if you want to have your months one right after the other, think about if you want it, or if you want to leave extra blank pages. So Eden's giving us a couple tips for starting to prepare this. Tabs are a good idea, somebody said, and somebody else just said thank you. So I think we've gotten them all of our comments down. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening. It is 10 days before Christmas, so I will, we're all going to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a blessed and peaceful Christmas. And hopefully our new year is going to be a very calm and peaceful experience. This practice that we talked about tonight can actually help you usher that in that way, that you're already planning to start 2021 with, focusing on what you can be thankful for and who you can pray for. So I will basically say we are finished this evening, and hold on.
You, Diane.
Oh, of course.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
Welcome. So I'm closing us out for December 15th. This is Tuesdays at 8, our weekly Facebook Live event. And this slide does say join us next week, but I will not be here. Next Tuesdays at 8 will be the 4th of January. Our 2 weeks from tonight will be at the same time slot, our Zoom call, which will not be in this format, and you will be able to get all that information. But most importantly is always join us in our Facebook group. If you want to have a community and have wonderful conversation, be encouraged by all the beauty and the wonderful things that people share, and you get inspired at the same time. And that's what our Facebook group is all about. So we encourage you to join us there. So thank you. Merry Christmas. And I will be talking to you when we've already had New Year. So I'm going to say now, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.